Everybody's got an opinion. Every Californian and Virginian. It's so hard to tell who to trust and who to ignore. Someone's gotta settle the score. Trey and Chelsey will help you choose whose views win, which ones lose. Online haters are coming for you. Baby, it's time to review the review.
Hello.
Well, hello, and welcome to Review That Review. We are the podcast that is dedicated to reviewing
Reviews.
That is Chelsey Donn.
And that is Trey Gerrald.
And together, we are
The Review Queens.
That's right. Okay.
we both do a little sigh.
I know. I'm like, I don't really know how to jump into this, guys. So Trey and I have decided we've come to a decision together after 4 years of having this wonderful show and experiencing this with you guys that we are going to retire. We are going to retire our crowns. As sad as that is. It's
That's
happening.
right.
Yeah.
And we have not scripted any of today's show, really. So it's just going to be our intention today. We're going to sort of review the podcast and what the experience has been. We've come up with a whole bunch of questions, and we're going to just sort of do Chelsey's term as like a fireside chat, which I think is fun. But yeah, so we have, we did a huge pivot to YouTube, which I'm really thankful that we did. And now we're at a point where we're going to close the chapter for now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're both going to take on new chapters in the future, and we're definitely going to let you guys know what that is and how you can continue to follow us. Please do continue to be a part of our lives. We really love this community that we've built, and we definitely don't want to abandon you. The good news for you is that perhaps you haven't had a chance to catch up on 4 years worth of content. So we can still be with you, even if we're not with you live with a new episode every week. There's definitely plenty of episodes that you can listen to. So we hope that in some way, we can still remain a part of your lives. If you love this show, there's plenty to listen to. There's plenty to watch. So should we get into a little bit of a reflection moment, Trey?
Yeah. Yes. So, okay. So I was trying to find what the exact date was, but we've literally been doing this since 2021. So the amount of
I know
effort
the exact date because it was my.
You?
Oh, that you called me. Oh, I don't know. I know that the first episode was on my birthday. It was June 22nd of 2021.
Right. We premiered with 3 episodes. But I can't find when I called you because, obviously we've been texting multiple times almost every day for 4 years. So it's to try to get to the top of that is literally impossible.
Well,
I tried for 3 minutes.
I know. I remember exactly what happened because I had a friend of mine that had a podcast called Creative Crush. And she... Shout out. And she was doing these Creative Crush lunches. And she kind of reached out to me sort of last minute. And she was like, hey, do you want to do this creative lunch with me on Instagram Live? And I was like, yeah, sure. No problem. I would love that. And so I joined this Instagram Live with her, and I was, doing some stand-up remote via Zoom with some friends over COVID. And so we were talking about that. And I guess Trey must have gotten an alert that I was live on Instagram, and you came into the room. And I was like, oh my God, it's Trey. Hey, Trey. Because, Trey and I we had met in LA several years prior, and we always kept in touch. And I love Trey, and I adore him, and so it was always very exciting to me. But we didn't get to chat all the time, so I was like so thrilled to see you in there. And I was like, hey, and I guess at the same time as I was on this show, Creative Crush, talking about doing stand-up comedy, the germ, is that what it's called? the beginning of an idea to do a podcast and to actually dive into it was happening for you, right?
Yeah, I forgot because I remember joining the live.
Yeah. Shout out to Aaron.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on there, or else this podcast would never happen.
Look at that. Yeah, I knew that we've talked about the like origin in the past, but I knew that I wanted to like explore the podcast medium because I was such a like crazy fan of My Favorite Murder, and I found My Favorite Murder when I was living in LA, like by myself with my dog Winnie. So like anytime I was driving, being used to being in New York where you're walking around and then suddenly I'm in a car all day, like stuck in traffic, it was like a companion to have a podcast in your ear. And that was like a month after those ladies had started that podcast. So I was like trying to catch up to real time. So podcasting sort of always felt LA to me because they were like in Los Feliz. So like I felt like they were close to me. Anyway, that's random. But I did fine because so I realized that I needed the review was not the concept, but I wanted to do a podcast and I knew I needed a partner. And I wanted someone who had skills that I did not have. So I wanted a comedian. I wanted someone who like had experience with stand-up because I feel most comfortable being more serious. So I was like, I need the balance. And my original concept, as we have discussed, was I wanted to do a podcast about porn. And like I had an idea of like downloading scripts from porn and then like acting them out. And friend of the pod, Mark Tuminelli, was like, you can't be a man doing a podcast about porn and like not have like you have to have a female, like you have to have like the balance because otherwise it's gross. And I was like, so that's really interesting.
And then Trey texted me, hey, I want to pick your brain about something. That was like the exact verbiage. And I was like, pick my brain. I wonder what this could possibly be. And then I was like, okay, like, let's talk.
And we got on the phone and we had a conversation. And in the conversation, we quickly pivoted, like, because, yes.
Yeah, and you were like, do you want to do a podcast? And I was like, I don't really know what that is. I like listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'd be down to do any kind of an adventure with you. What are you thinking? And you were like, I was thinking maybe porn. And I was like, I don't know if I'm your porn girl. Like, I don't really dabble in porn. I don't know that I could like live in porn. Maybe we should have done porn. Maybe this whole thing would have been different. Maybe I really pivoted us in the wrong direction. But we started chatting about why porn and what did you want to do with the porn scripts and what felt interesting about that to you. And to my recollection, you said, I like the idea of like theatricalizing, is that the word? Things that are not normally made theatrical. And
I thought it would be funny to like be a dramaturg with like the flimsiest scripts of porn. Like I thought that would be funny. That was like the seed I had.
Yeah.
And then I think.
And then I was like, well, what else do like people theatricalize? Wow, there's that word again. That maybe was not intended for that forum. And then I was like, wow, like I really like reading reviews. I think it's really funny, which crazily enough, much later, I was going through text messages that I had sent to Trey because Trey told me that he had deleted he was getting rid of all of his electronic data clutter. And so he had deleted every single text message between him and I, but also between everybody. He told me between everybody except for David. And I was like, and me, of course, right? Because I'm your work wife. And you were like, no, I deleted our entire thing. I figured you have it. And I was like, what the hell? And so because he did that, I decided to go back to the first like attachment screenshot photo I'd ever sent Trey. And it happened to have been years before this concept even came to us.
I
It
remember
happened
this.
to have been a screenshot of a Yelp review,
Right.
which is so crazy. In full
Yeah,
circle.
because, and we'll probably get into this in some of these questions, but I knew, because I had seen various content on the internet of people like doing dramatic readings of reviews. So like that idea didn't feel played out. It felt like a random thing. Like, because I think there was someone who was like presenting reviews as monologues. Like, I think we had a conversation. There was someone who had done that, and we were like, oh,
Yeah.
there's something there. And then from that conversation, we were like, wait, what if we reviewed the actual reviews? And we were like,
and then
that's a
Trey
seed.
was obsessed with Drag Race, as he still is, and now I am as well.
Yeah.
And I think you were watching Drag Race with David, and then you texted me and you're like, we're the review queens. That's who we are. We are the review queens. And I'm like, I'm down. It's great. And then that really just like shot things out of the cannon, because we had this concept of reviewing reviews, which we did some research and we didn't find anybody else who had done this. And we had these personas as the review queens, which gave us a platform to sort of have winky authority, right? Like, we're the review queens. We are self-proclaimed, purveyors of reviews that have the authority to review reviews. And that was really fun. And then one of the questions that was posed was, when did we first realize that this wasn't just a passion project and that it was a real show? I mean, I can definitely speak to that. Trey, do you want to speak to your experience with that?
Wait, hold on. I just want to say, so all of that was from, I was trying to pinpoint the moment I called you, which I don't know, but after that first conversation, we very quickly, like, were immediately spitballing. Like, Chelsey immediately made a website. We were like coming up with all of the stuff. I reached out to friends, whatever, but we are on opposite coasts. So I had just moved to New Jersey, and there's like 6 months of the podcast where like I didn't want to acknowledge that I wasn't living in New York anymore, which is so random. But Chelsey was in LA. So we had to figure out like, because it was post-pandemic, so podcasts were now going remote and all of these platforms were being created. But we started on Zoom, and our very first Zoom recording is April 5th of 2021. And I'm just going to play the audio because it's a very short clip.
Okay.
And I think it actually sums up our entire technical relationship. Listen to this.
Third-party video editor.
So,
What does
like,
that mean? Should I be checking that?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't have the...
That's the whole clip. We had no idea about technology, which has been a effing through line. Literally, the protein brownie episode was like probably our most challenging technical recording ever. So that I just thought that like 10 seconds, the first time we ever recorded together, is us being
We're
like,
what?
what
I know,
is
and
this
Trey, even
message?
before that, remember when I was trying to put the mic together and I like dismantled
All the
I was like,
bands.
I was like, I took the thing apart, and you're like, you what? That's like, you're
There's
supposed to
you
leave that's the
disassemble it.
netting. That's so funny. And then you're like, we should have recorded this. But I was gonna say, just like piggybacking off of what we said in terms of how, like, when I realized that this was more than just a passion project and was going to be a real show. It's funny because Trey says he wanted someone that balanced him out, someone that was a female, someone that was a comedian, someone that had a little bit of a different energy. And I think that is so mirrored in so many aspects of both Trey and I. And that was when I realized that, wow, this is going to be a real thing, because we have such complementary skill sets, and we both really are passionate about showing up like 100% within our skill sets. So I remember in the beginning, it was like Trey came up with the review queens, and we were fleshing out this, idea And then one of my skill sets is websites. So I like immediately was like, I'm going to build a website. So I like got to work on the website. Was
Like
up,
immediately.
Immediately. Like
the next day.
Was up for like hour, like 24 hours, basically just like working on adrenaline and building this website to try to begin to flush out this concept. And like the next day, I texted Trey and I was like, here's a link to our website. And I could tell that Trey also is somebody that likes to show up. So when he saw that I had put in all this work on the website, he was like, oh my God, like I have to step up now because like I had put in all of this work, which wasn't what I was thinking. I wasn't like, Trey better show up now. I was just like, oh, look, I'm excited about this thing. And then I sent you that. And then the next day you were like, oh, I have this award-winning person writing our theme song. And I have like we started working on the cover art. Like I have these resources. Like it worked so beautifully between the two of us and all of our resources on both ends, both within ourselves and also our communities. Not to mention like the humongous asset, which I don't think we could talk about this show at all without giving a huge shout out to your beautiful, wonderful husband, David, who was so generous with the photo shoots that he did for this show. Like this show would not be what it was without these amazing images that captured the essence of who we are as the review queens. And that for me, I was like, when we were doing that photo shoot in your basement and we had everything set up and I got to work with David as a photographer for the first time and he was such genius and amazing. I was like, this is a real thing. This is not like some just little, we're going to zoom in every week. Like this is something that both Trey and I are taking very seriously. And we're going to, even though we're producing this ourselves, which in the end ended up being challenging, we really both care a lot about the product that we're producing.
Yeah, I think it was multiple steps to answer the questions of when I realized it was real and not just like because it's always been a passion project. That was like an important defining word for us. It was always an outlet for us because we both have backgrounds in acting where you aren't in control. And so this was truly an expression of we are doing this together. But I think even when we were coming up with all of the puns for the segments, like I remember you were influenced by Andy Cohen's show. And
Watch What Happens Live, which I loved.
And the whole Queen thing, at the time, I don't know if I've ever disclosed this, but at the time, I was a crisis counselor for the Trevor Project. So I was very much in the headspace of like the impact of gender in a negative way. And so there was something about saying we're queens that was funny and empowering to me. And it's even today, like, I don't even remember the tagline of the end of the episode being like gender non
specific queen.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know how, but like that just sort of came through, and being like not assuming gender has really come to the forefront, of culture, which I think is great. But I was just in the headspace from like dealing with youth. But it's just all of that. There was a lot of alchemy at the top of like everything coming together, us jiving together, and then like using resources and getting the theme song, and then like asking Natalie to do it, and like them recording over Zoom, and I was like sitting there watching, and it was like this is crazy. Like I was texting Chelsey, like these like artists are like giving us friends and family rate, and they're like recording a theme. Like that was like a big moment for me too.
Yeah, that was huge.
What's the most surprising thing that's come out of the podcast for you?
Oh my God. I hate to make it like a negative thing, but I just think like the amount of work, like what was so beautiful about having this podcast during COVID was that the world was kind of crazy. Both Trey and I were sort of out of work in terms of our day jobs because of COVID, like everybody else. And I just lost my dog Bella, who had passed away. And that was like a huge, just heartbreaking moment. And I always would tell Trey, like, I felt like this was a gift that Bella had given me because I could never have gotten through the mourning of losing her. And like Trey was like literally there through the end of her life. We were working on this podcast. And so it was such a gift to have something that like always demanded work in a way in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because the thing about podcasting that I think a lot of people don't understand is that it is a bottomless pit. Like if you are self-producing a podcast and you want to work on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a podcast will provide opportunities for you to do that. It is so much bigger and vaster, and there's just so much more that goes into it than I ever could have imagined. Like, and everyone that does a podcast will tell you that. Like, it's so much work for something that really is just supposed to be silly and fun, and, you know, that it's just like you're listening to it while you're folding your laundry. But the amount of work that goes into creating this content is astronomical.
Especially because you and I are very type A and we sort of demand excellence. Like, I remember the endless revisions on the logo, but same with like being able to utilize my husband, who's a photographer. It was like, because we were coming from an entertainment background, we were like, well, we have to have like images. Like, you know, there's like so many avenues to go down that like aren't necessarily, but we wanted to be like very brand forward. We wanted to present as very authentic and legitimate and like real. So like,
and I will say that a lot of the initial feedback that I got from friends and people, when they would find out that it was just Trey and I who were doing everything, they were shocked. Like everything from every single
mailers.
The mailers, every single image on social media, every graphic design item, the website, you know, the images being created, the artistic concepts of the images being created by Trey and I and executed so beautifully by David. But it wasn't like we had a brand person in the corner being like, hey, you guys should do this. Like every single element, the editing, oh my God, like that almost killed us a few times. The merch, like that I still wear all the time. Good gerb. I wanted to give myself a good gerb for this last recording, so I wanted to wear the sweatshirt. But yeah, I mean, it is miraculous the amount of things that both Trey and I have to. I mean, just the editing alone, guys. Like, how many episodes of this podcast did you single-handedly edit? I mean, before we did video, every episode.
Yeah, I did every episode.
And after show.
And the after show. Now the after show is just completely.
But still, I mean, like, you have to compile it. You have to, like, there's editing involved, not as much as the main show, which is a huge undertaking.
And it was important to us in the beginning of the podcast to sort of authentically speak and not self-edit. So, like, our recordings would be 90. This is like, once we got to 30-minute episodes, which was in our second year. But like our recordings would be like 70 to 90 minutes, and I would try to get them down to like an hour. So it was like a lot of,
or like 59 or, you know.
Yeah. And that
was almost 200 episodes plus another.
It was 187, but some of those were like the best ofs, but I edited those because those were, I would say the most surprising thing that came out of doing the podcast is getting dropped by my acting agents in LA.
Oh my God.
Which is like also like a reality. I thought that like having a creative outlet would be only helpful. And my agents in LA thought I was spending too much time on this endeavor. And so they dropped me. Which obviously is a blessing in disguise. But that's how I would answer that question. What did you think podcasting was going to be like? And how was it different?
I mean, I feel like I've already sort of spoken to that, but I think I thought it was going to be like a Zoom session where you and I just like chatted, and I did not realize everything that comes with producing a show.
Yeah. I think I thought that we were in a good position, that we would have different SEO, like different search engine optimization keywords every episode, because every episode would be a different topic, that would really help diversify and get us out. And what I came to find was like, podcasting has become so oversaturated, and any medium, no matter what it is, even if you're like an artist doing an art gallery, getting an audience is always a challenge. So much concentration on like, how do we get a larger audience? Like, I didn't think about how that would really become a predominant theme, especially coming from being a fan of My Favorite Murder. That was so niche and sort of like underground. And they had like their version of like people writing in and telling stories. So that really spread like wildfire. They didn't have a lot of difficulties with growing the audience, that I feel like we were much more mindful of and more intentional. I wasn't expecting that challenge as much.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like tools and tricks like that became essential to our workflow. We got into like a pretty good place. I think like dividing and conquering was always the name of the game for Trey and I. Like,
oh yeah,
really figuring out where our skill sets were, and then getting to a point where like we didn't need to consult one another to complete our individual assignments. We could just trust that the other person was going to do, what they were going to do, and I was going to do what I was going to do. Trey was going to do what he was going to do. I mean, I don't even know if there's anyone out there listening or otherwise that is doing this by themselves. I don't know how you would do it. I mean, it seems impossible just doing it with just the two of us, but I do think that having support and then eventually bringing on a video editor, that became so critical
helpful
for us.
Yeah. I mean, we've been touching on this something behind the scenes that audience never really saw or heard, but was a huge part of the job. I mean, the constant technical challenges. I mean, we started on Zoom. We went to Riverside. Then we kept having issues with Riverside, which is like the leading one in the industry. Then we went to Zencaster. We've also done Squadcast. Like, we also tried what's StreamYard, like when we were going to do lives, we had that.
Oh yeah.
We also like,
oh my God.
There's so like, we started on a different hosting, a Buzzsprout. Then we moved to Captivate, which I'm such a fan of. But then like,
and this like continued throughout the whole process. There was literally like 3 episodes ago, we recorded the entire episode and then realized that we didn't get like over half of Trey's recording, and we had to record the whole thing over again.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a lot of technical difficulties that happen behind the scenes. We always try to make it seem like we stick the landing, but there's a lot of maneuvering that happens behind the curtain.
Yeah, but I think like also that was just like, I feel like we've, especially with the after show, like I feel like we weren't really like, there wasn't much like behind the scene mishigas that we weren't sharing. Because even when those glitches would happen, we'd be like, oh my God.
Talk
like,
about it.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything like really but like mundane behind the scenes that we don't? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, I think we like, we're pretty transparent, at least on Patreon, about all the difficulties. But I think
we started batch recording.
We did start batch recording. That was helpful. We'd
always do a costume change
at a time. We love the fact that our show is evergreen, which is why you guys can keep listening. Please keep listening. The episodes are still there. Wow. Okay.
All right. Should we talk about actually? So we focused in on doing reviews. So let's fireside chat a little bit about reviews. What was the most unexpected product or review that you like sourced and found that turned out to be a total gold mine?
You know, I was thinking about this a lot. Like, I feel like I always am nostalgic for the early reviews that we found on this podcast because I was just like searching for, oh my God, like what's the most absurd thing I could find? And I remember when my nephew was having a birthday party and he was like doing an outdoor thing because it was still COVID. And I was looking for like things that I could send so that he could know, like, it's actually his birthday today. Happy birthday, Tyler. I was looking for things I could send so I could like be a part of the celebration.
Oh
and
my
I saw
God.
this humongous beach ball. And I was like, oh my God, that'd be so like fun. It was giving me like old gym class vibes, like under the parachute. Like I could picture him and all his friends around this like ball, sort of pushing it around my sister's backyard. And I was like, this could be interesting. Let me look at the reviews. And I read the reviews and I was just like blown away. And I brought in this review of this huge beach ball. And I remember Trey just laughing so hard at that review. And then afterwards, I remember you being like, wow, like the bar has really been risen. I think I need to step up now.
Yeah. And I also remember when speaking of finding a comedian, I remember even in dress rehearsals, like your forming of lodging a complaint were like mini stand-up sets. And I was really inspired by that because I was like, oh, I'm literally like just gonna complain about, I don't even know, like ice melting or something. And like you had like whole arcs and narratives that were like funny. And I was like, oh shit, I really have to like, I can challenge myself more.
Well, thank you. I definitely feel like so full disclosure, you know, Trey and I have been talking about what are we going to do now that we have this extra free time. And I do want to get back into doing stand up and use my Saturdays to go to open mics and start crafting my set. And one of the things that I'm planning to do is go back and listen to all those complaints and pull some material because I think there's something there.
I feel like for me, some like a product that was like the most surprising. Well, obviously we can't not talk about Santino.
Yes.
But finding that I like was hopeful that I would find something.
But I do remember you saying when I was like dying and like could not breathe from laughing so hard that you did not think.
I didn't realize. No, I didn't know that it would be such a standout. But I
like literally you were like, you're gonna have to mute. You're gonna have to mute because I can't get through this.
Wait, I realize now that wasn't even my idea. My friend Danielle from college sent me Veet.
Oh, yes.
She sent me a Veet review and I thought it was funny. And then that's how I found, because I thought it was funny enough. Which then years later, I did a different Veet review. It wasn't the same one. But from that, I went to Nair because I use Nair for men. And yes, and I thought it was funny. But like your hearing of it was not how I thought it was going to land in the room. And that was very funny. Like we couldn't get back on track.
We couldn't. It was something about the cherries. Like as soon as you said the cherries, and it was just, there was something about it.
And then also I would say, when I brought in an OkCupid review and it was just like a terrible straight man, unfiltered ranting. That felt like a gold mine to me because it was like this person thinks they're right and they're like putting a whole gender on blast. And then for us to sort of dismantle that and like put context on top of like, you literally left a review on Trustpilot for OkCupid and like every story that you have created and concocted about dating and women and men and how they should be treated and reviewed. It was just such, like we could have talked about it and we were both so angry. Same with the
I remember
Planet
being
Fitness.
with that one in the Planet Fitness, I remember being very enraged and just feeling like I was activated.
And we were sort of like, we have to be done. Because it was like just so insane.
Like we could keep going. I could keep talking about this for, the next 4 years. Yeah, that's true.
So
that was a
out
good
of
review.
210 plus episodes, including all the bonuses and all of that, and then the 190 after shows, what review style is more fun to cover? A 1-star or a 5-star?
I think I have to say 1-star. If it's executed correctly, can be really funny and relatable. And everyone understands that moment of, I love when a 1-star is like, I had this high expectation for what this was going to be. And then I was so let down. And when they can balance that real experience of the letdown with the proper amount of comedy and not so we read some of the ones that are really far-fetched, and this is clearly like the banana slicer, this is just like a tale. But when they're really coming out of a place of passion, it's a beautiful thing.
And they can be totally wrong. Like there just tends to be more things to pull apart in a 1-star, because oftentimes there's like an emotion attached.
Right.
Whereas I have tended to find, especially with our versus episodes, like it's more fun when you are the 1-star, generally speaking.
Yes.
Because the 5-star tends to be a little less emotionally connected and is just sort of like
more like Pollyanna, like this is so great and here's everything great about it.
Whereas a 1-star feels like you're getting justice or like you are getting heard. And a 5-star is sort of like, oh yeah, like it was wonderful, like, great. I mean, you did the 5-star for the YouTube and it saved his life. So that, but even that felt,
that was kind of nice.
But it felt still sort of like emotionally disconnected as versus like, that, wait, what was the Temu one where the grandma thought she was writing the note or something?
Oh my
and then
God, that was so funny. Like,
hey,
yeah, like happy birthday. Happy birthday. Oh my goodness. So many amazing reviews were read on this show. I was just thinking of something and then it like popped in and popped out, like a little bird that flies in and flies out. Oh, I remember. Do you remember the I'm assuming it was a 1-star review, but where there was that whole drama about like Brenda or whoever like worked at Chipotle. Sleeping with everybody's husbands.
Yeah, that was on the after show.
Oh, is that on the after show? Things can get really crazy on the reviews. Like people can really, I don't know. I don't even know if it's true or if it's not true, but people can hop on a bandwagon and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about Brenda being a home wrecker. And there's like 150 reviews about Brenda under this Chipotle in Virginia.
Yes. And then it became like a viral thing, and then you like can't tell if they're fake reviews or not.
Exactly.
Or like what's going on.
You're like, is Brenda even still there? Like, how's the guac?
When you were sourcing reviews, what did you feel made for a better episode? A review with amazing detail, or one that just absolutely made no sense?
I mean, the ones with a lot of detail were hard because sometimes they would be really long and it was a challenge to keep the like audience attention. I feel like sometimes I would think like, oh, this really long review that is like, a Shakespearean sonnet is going to really slap. But then when you were on like the 16th stanza, you're like, well, here we are. And then some of the ones that are just completely random also, it's just like there wasn't that much for us to talk about sometimes because you're like, all right, well, this person is cuckoo bananas. And then what else can we really say about it? I love the balance. Like in terms of the 5-star, of course, I'm always going to think of the Kleenex review that both Trey and I sourced for our first Thanksgiving episode. That was such a saga. Like, what a crazy story. What a like insane thing about Hank and Liam and what, the
Oh my
sons.
God.
And it was such a narrative and a wild ride that was so specific to this family. And it also went viral. So I don't know if it was real or fake or what the story was, but there was so much meat on the bone, no pun intended, with that review that those kind of like crazy fakakta narratives, I think, are the most fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was always looking for the balance. Like if it was, because there needed to be enough to sort of discuss, which became part of like the in-betweener was like a phrase we had at first, which before we got to the after show, which we would, where they could be a little more concise. I always thought of like, what's a more concise, okay, this question I think is really interesting. Which review site was the wildest to pull from? Like what did you find yourself going back to often? Which sites for
I feel
quality?
Like obviously like Amazon was probably like the most common, but the most surprising to me, which you often sourced from more than I did, was Goodreads, because these people were like literary masters. And so they would write these like thesis statements on Goodreads, and it would be there would be bold and italics and all kinds of punctuation, and it was like a real essay study that I didn't know that. I wasn't expecting that. I remember when you brought in the first Goodreads review.
Yeah, I feel like, and I didn't know Goodreads. Like I remember when we were writing a script for our teaser trailer, it was like, because I remember thinking we would be able to get reviews from like Psychology
Rate My
Today
Professor
and Rate My Professors.
Yeah, which is harder to source than you would think.
It ended up being harder, yeah, because like those
you have to like go into the school, pick a subject, like you have to do like
that's right.
So many things just to search for, maybe this one random professor at NYU will have interesting reviews.
And like TripAdvisor, I would scour TripAdvisor a lot, but I feel like I left less with content. Obviously, Amazon covers everything in the world. So, and I shop from Amazon constantly. So I'm on that site a lot. So I feel like I leaned to that often. The Trustpilot, I feel like, was very wrought.
Yeah.
But that was also similarly, you would have to like just start clicking on things and landing places.
You you'd have to really spend a lot of time researching on Trustpilot to maybe come against something. So it was like, if I needed to find something quickly, I was not going to search necessarily on Trustpilot, but I did appreciate the reviews that we pulled from there.
Yeah. I don't think that I remember trying Better Business Bureau, and a lot of those sort of never landed. Like I think I only had a few from there in the 4 years. Like I remember Qdoba was from there, but it was harder because people really just weren't entertaining. They were really just complaining.
Right.
On Better Business.
It was just, they just didn't know, like, where else could I possibly go? This is my like last ditch effort to get someone to pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk about segments?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Is there any like complaint that you or I lodge that you feel like is justified? Or was there one that you might have looked back on and been like, maybe I was being a little really dramatic? I mean, I think of the confetti cannons because I have a love-hate relationship with them.
That was true. That was interesting because that became that was like one of the first inductions as a Royal Highness and complaint.
I did it as both.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I still completely feel justified about ice. That was one of my early Royal Highnesses. And like, I live by ice. So like,
I know Trey's a really big fan of it. And David is not, which is interesting about you guys. You're like fire and ice over there. I don't know. I mean, God, I had so many complaints. I think it's going to be one of the things that I'm going to miss the most about this show is like anytime something happens, even like this past week, I'm going to do it. I'm going to complain. I have to give my last chance. But this past week I was at the doctor and I had to get a bunch of blood work done and they like couldn't get a vein. And so they stuck me like a million times. I have black and blue marks and I'm in so much pain all over my arms, my hands.
Oh my God.
I can't even tell you, Trey. Like, it was actually torture. I was like, is there a hidden camera in here? Like, what is happening right now? And I would induct as my Royal Highness Nancy, who was the nurse that finally was like, you know what? I think you just need a smaller needle. And she like tracked down a smaller needle for me and we were able to do it. And I was like, Nancy, where have you been all my life? But she was like the 5th nurse that came in. So I don't know. I think all of my complaints felt very real and justified to me in the moment. So I don't want to look back on them and say like, I shouldn't have complained about that, because I think that in that moment, it felt very real. Just like when people are writing these reviews, maybe they would go back and be like, I was a bit much in hindsight, but in that moment, they felt impassioned about it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just love that we had the opportunity to do that. And I am going to miss it. Maybe I'll just call our fetch line. They really need to fetch it out.
What was harder? Complaints or Royal Highnesses?
I mean, I wish it weren't, but I will say, like, I think Royal Highnesses. Like, I don't know what that says about me. But I feel like complaints were just like every day there'd be a complaint. And then Royal Highness, I was like, well, what am I going to do? Or who am I going to do? Or, you know, and I also, behind the curtain a little bit, sort of didn't want to like induct like friends, because I never wanted any of my friends to be like, well, why haven't I been inducted? You know, like even so when I would have a friend that would do something really nice for me that week and I'd be like, oh, that was so nice. That's like worthy of an induction. I wasn't going to do that because I didn't want to make anybody feel left out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there was more gravitas to the Royal Highnesses, so they were harder to source for me because I felt like
it felt more serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I would just induct nothing. Just like a feeling. We would just do feelings sometimes.
Yeah, which I actually really liked when we sort of went that way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm going to say like besides Santino, because we've obviously talked about Santino and his cherries so much. Is there another like favorite inside joke or like a recurring bit that we developed naturally that you loved about the show?
This occurred to me about like 2.5 years in, that somehow randomly at the end of every episode, I would say Ferris wheel of the RQ Ferris wheel of, and I would say something randomly from the episode. I have no idea. Like, did I do that on the first? I don't know. But then when I recognized I did it, then I started getting, I would like have a tremor as we were getting to that part of like, fuck, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? Like, it was something that I wasn't even cognizant of doing. It was just a random callback that tickled me. And then I felt the pressure of having to have something
funny and interesting to me, because on the receiving end of you doing that every week, I was like, oh, Trey's so good at this. Like Trey is so good at finding whatever topic from the episode, you know, that wraps it all up. I never felt like you were sweating it out. So
yeah, once I recognized it, I was like, oh no. And then I had to sort of like put it out of my mind and just try to be in the moment. What about you?
I thought it was great. Oh my God. I always think about what was it that I said that one time when you were playing that song and I said like I thought it was Lil Bow Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
That was really funny.
It was also like episode 6 or 7. I like tried to do a fake commercial and Chelsey was like a hard no. She was like, what? I don't know how to respond to this.
I know, because it's just like, you're like, I think you might have said to me, I'm going to try something. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then you were like, wishy, washy. Like, I don't know.
Because you had lodged a complaint about slipping in the bath and it being embarrassing. You touched the shower curtain and that's disgusting. You don't want it touching you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's so funny. That was really funny. I did enjoy that. I don't know why I was like thinking about this when we were talking about the like long reviews and if they were hard. I remember like we had Natalie on the show and I
Mhm.
had read this really long review about like a steamer or something like that. And I think I was thinking like, oh, it'd go well, or oh, she'd think it's funny or relatable or something. And I read the whole review and then she was just like, wow, that person really has a lot of time on their hands. Like, can't
Yes, I
imagine
remember
having
that.
that much time on my hands. And I was like, oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, because she was kind of like, I would have seen the length of this review and not even read it.
yeah, she's like, she was like, I would have just seen this review and been like, okay, well, I'm not going to read that. And I'm like, okay, well, I did. So I guess we'll try to talk about it. So that was like really funny to me when I was like, okay, there would be some times like that where I would bring in a review that I really thought was going to hit. And then it just wouldn't. And it was a bit of a letdown when that would happen. Did that happen to you?
Well, speaking of the guest episodes, like we wanted to have more guest episodes. They just were really time consuming and
Yeah. And
the
hard to like
benefit-
coordinate and
yeah, because then it
Yeah.
becomes like multiple people's schedules. And we always wanted to give people the opportunity to like do a complaint or to bring in a review. And then sometimes people felt a little like it was a lot of expectation and work outside of coming on. So then we tried to pivot a little bit. But and we really struggled because when you have guests, that's like a built-in machine of sharing. But it was just like triple the amount of work to do the guest episodes. We even did like a dress rehearsal with David that like
That's right.
I've never edited. It was our first time trying to do it. It was like a 3.5 hour recording. It was just like too much. Like that is just, I guess we'll never see the light of day.
Yeah, I guess so. Do you have a favorite guest moment?
I really enjoyed all of them. I really enjoyed the spirit of Joe Kanosian's episode because he was so game. He also like really did listen to a lot of episodes, but also I loved doing the like musical trivia for the two of you because it was such an uneven playing field.
That was
he's
so
literally
funny.
a composer, so he like has studied that and that's his career.
But he was really sweet to me. Like whenever I would get one right or something, he'd be like, "Look, you do know things." I love Joe. That episode was really fun and just lovely. I also love Mark Tuminelli. I just think he's so much fun. I'll never forget when we were talking about commercials and he was like, every commercial is like, here's the problem and here's how the product solves it. And he just made up a commercial on the spot and it was literal perfection. And then I loved having the MacMart sisters on as well.
Yeah,
because it was nice having a real business and being able to talk to somebody that is like getting Yelp reviews on a regular basis.
Yeah, and this is like behind the curtain as well, but I really wanted to get Britta Filter, who is a drag queen from Drag Race, who had a really difficult reception from that audience base. And so much so that they had a lot of mental health issues and they just weren't really willing to open up the can of worms again, which we obviously respected. But that was like the benefit of the guest was like a different perspective on the online chatter.
Yeah.
But
and being able to make someone a queen for the day. I mean, it was like a Full House moment when like Michelle got to be queen for a day.
Okay, so like special episodes, the verses.
Yeah.
Do you think that the winner usually deserved it because of the content or because of the chaos? I feel like we've always tried to be as honest.
Because of the content. Like I think in the end, especially because the versus episodes, one of the things we talked about was like we tried to do some actual businesses, right? Like obviously DJ Spinfo was iconic because it was the first one. But then we did like the cake company. Like we tried to talk about, okay, now looking at both of the sides of this review, am I ordering a cake? Am I
Right.
going to hire this DJ?
This
So
interior designer,
this interior designer, am
moving
I going to
company.
work? Am I going to work with them when I use this moving company? And so I do feel like in the end, we really did try to pick the side of where we were influenced.
Yeah, and I never, even when we started doing TikTok people, like there was a concern about needing to make, I just never felt like I needed to like lie. I
Yeah.
really felt like I can say what I want to say. Like I don't need to cater
Agree.
to someone.
Yeah, agree.
Did you most enjoy picking the reviews or listening to the other person's reviews?
I think I really enjoyed listening. It was like really, yeah. I mean, like it was fun. Like the researching of reviews and finding like a golden moment was always really fun. But listening to your reviews, listening to like what you picked, what tickled you, like just kind of getting into the craziness of your brain. I mean, also, guys, like Trey brought so much to this podcast in terms of just styling. Like even most recently with the Stanley, like he's bringing the drag, he's bringing the costumes. Like it was so fun for me to see like what is Trey gonna do this week. Like it was sitting down to a meal with like a master chef and being like, I wonder what they're gonna present. And I love that.
That's sweet. I think it's hard. I liked when we would batch the episodes because we would each do an episode.
Yes.
More so than the first year when we both did reviews because that just really felt really exhausting.
Yes. Agree.
But I don't know. I obviously everything you said, I also liked hearing what tickled you. But I liked doing the live reviews. I would have wanted to do more of those, but that just became like a whole nother thing too. But like I liked doing the lip venom because I was always curious about lip venom. The shake weight, which was like one of the final audio episodes. I wish we had done that on YouTube, but you can watch that live review on the after show. But even like the gift episodes, like the back massager, I liked the live ones because it felt more interactive.
Yeah, I agree. I did like when we got to try it ourselves. I did wish we could do that more, but again, more coordination. There's only two of us.
Okay. But speaking of the after show.
Yes.
We started that on our 20th episode. And that was really me I wanted to like build out the community in a way to have more of a direct line. And that really did come from My Favorite Murder.
I think we also like the idea of like having a behind the curtain. I feel like Trey and I are pretty transparent on the main show, but there would be sometimes when something would come up, like a story about a celebrity or a story about something that both Trey and I knew about that we were like, oh, I don't really want to like talk
blast
about this
out
in a super public forum.
Yeah.
And so it was nice to have the behind the curtain as like a extra protection barrier to really be able to be candid.
And I think the after show oppositely influenced us as we went on. But in response to not doing a porn podcast, like we didn't really want to go blue, like on the main show, which we tickled with more as we went on. But I remember like one of the very first after shows, like was that gallon of lube.
Oh, the lube.
Like, which was so funny and random. But like at the time we were sort of like, because we had like a giant mailing list that we were blasting every week, which you continued to do. Yes. But it was like, we don't want to necessarily lead with that. There was, I guess it was
now we don't care as much. Like now the mailers are,
but that I think was also really a distinction. It was like, it'll be less edited. It'll be more us. Because when I was
adult content.
But when I was first editing the show, I like would remove every I would remove every inhale. Because there's so many mouth sounds that are so disgusting.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's
I know.
humans,
Trey, that was hard. That was like one of the harder things I feel like for me as like your scene partner, and we've talked about this a little bit off the air, doing this show, was that because Trey was editing, like I wanted you to sometimes like take off your editor's hat and just be able to be with me and be like present in the recording. And I think it was hard, understandably so. Like it was hard for you to do that because you knew like every tangent, every whatever was going to be something that you were going to have to deal with afterwards.
Yeah, I think that is like advice I would give is like, because from the get, I wanted to be the editor. That was of interest to me. But I would say there is a lack of freedom that if you are the host, that you're also editing. Like it's totally doable, of course. But I feel like, there was like
you're like kind of directing. You're directing the show like while it's happening, which I think is challenging.
I would agree.
Okay. Yeah. What else should we talk about? I feel like we've discussed a lot.
Do you want to do the final Meryl-Go-Round? Should we take the opportunity?
I mean, do you think we didn't touch on any of the heart of it all, or do you think we?
Well, let's do that after.
Okay.
I think they put it in the wrong order.
All right, so we'll talk about the heart afterwards. I did talk to Trey about having one more final spin on the Meryl-Go-Round. I just thought, how could we end the show without honoring Meryl herself and taking one more spin? So I guess it's game time. Should we do it?
It's game time. Let's say, because we crafted this so meticulously. It's time to take a little spin on the Meryl-Go-Round.
I don't feel like an icon. Most of the days I feel like I can't. That's with an A.
Here's the deal. Trey and I have each picked a rotten, scathing, pithy, 1-star zinger. And with 30 seconds on the clock, we'll take turns trying to recite the zinger in as many genres as possible.
Just like Queen Meryl Streep, who does it all.
Before the clock runs out. All right, who's going first?
Up to you.
Flip a quarter.
Ooh.
Let's do it.
I don't have the quarter.
Oh, no.
This is so embarrassing, but we have a cleaning lady and I didn't have the proper amount of money and I literally had to pay her $1 in quarters. And I took our quarter. Here, let me get the... Hold on, I have a...
Okay. Oh, that'll work. Flip that penny.
All right, I have a dime.
All right, flip that dime.
Which one do you want? You call it.
I'm going to call heads.
What the fuck? This is the third time I'm flipping it. Heads.
Okay. All right, so I'm going first.
Or you can pick if you want me to go first. You won.
Oh, I'll go first because I guess I won. All right. So for the final Meryl-Go-Round, of course, I needed to go on theme. And I decided what better thing to review than Meryl Streep herself. So I went on Amazon and I found a Meryl Streep 8-movie collection. And this is the 1-star review written by Kindle customer, 1 star. Subject is 1 star. Review is, how dare he? Meryl Streep, worst actress ever, awful movies.
What the hell?
How could he or she? Blasphemous. Sorry, Meryl, that I'm going to have to say this over and over again. You know that I don't agree. We have the same birthday and I love you.
Well, I will strap you onto that Semperviva vial from Death Becomes Her of like the age potion. That
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I'm in.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
3, 2, 1, go!
Disney.
Meryl Streep, worst actress ever. Awful movies.
Melodrama.
Meryl Streep, worst actress ever! Awful movies!
Spy.
What was it? You caught Lifetime?
Oh, Spy.
Spy. Meryl Streep, worst actress ever. Awful movie.
Magic Show.
Meryl Streep, worst actress ever. Awful movie.
Soap opera.
Meryl Streep, worst actress ever. Awful movie.
You want to do one more?
Sure.
Lifetime.
Meryl Streep, worst actress ever. Awful movie. I don't know Lifetime. Like, what is Lifetime? Okay.
That's
It
questionable.
wasn't my
That was-
best score, but that's okay.
You got 6, even with the technical difficulty.
Thank you. I also want to point out that it was worse. It was worst actress, not worst.
Lord. All right.
Kindle customer.
Well,
okay.
so mine is just random. So I decided today I have this 1-star zinger from Amazon. This is for a 128 gigabyte hidden video camera, 1080p portable spy camera, mini covert nanny video surveillance camera with motion detection for home, office.
It's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
But we'll pop it up. But it looks like a key fob.
It looks like a
for
key
your
fob.
car, like with the like trunk and the horn and the unlock. Like that's the camera. So you
Okay.
could like hang it on your key rack. Okay, so this actually is written by a person named No Funciona como lo indica no la recomiendo.
That's what
That's
it's
their
written
name.
by?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's a verified purchase. The subject is no bueno.
Okay.
And for our final merry-go-round, I totally cheated because the review is thumbs down emoji.
Oh, God. Are you going to at least say thumbs down? You have to say something.
Yeah, but I'm gonna interpret it physically as well,
Okay,
based
fine.
on what I'm
Of
given.
course. Obviously. Okay. I'm gonna strap you into a thumb. Sure, why not?
How can you
And
leave
you-
just? How can you just leave an emoji? Like, how is that a review? Like, how did Amazon approve that?
You know, we've discovered over the years that Amazon doesn't really creep in there too much to audit
Regulate.
their reviews. Yes.
All right.
All right, Trey. I'm gonna expect one hell of a performance. Okay.
I'm on the
Are-
thumb.
You're on the thumb. Are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
3,
Okay, here we go.
2, 1, go!
Southern.
Thumbs down.
Film noir.
Thumbs down, big boy.
Horror.
Thumbs down.
Opera diva.
Thumbs down.
Courtroom drama.
Thumbs down.
Rom-com.
Thumbs down. Ow.
Superhero.
Thumbs down.
Grandma.
Thumbs down.
Soap opera.
Thumbs down.
That's all.
Oh my God, Trey, I think you might have broken the record. Let's see.
I feel like I didn't. I feel like the most we've ever done was 10 or 11, right?
Okay, that was 9.
Right.
That was
All
9.
right.
All right, that was very good. All right, so you're winning. You won the last merry-go-round. Congratulations, Trey. And I'm sorry, Meryl Streep. I obviously don't agree with Kindle customer.
No. What an idiot. Let's see
Clearly,
that act.
what a moron. And they couldn't
Okay.
even insult you properly. Worse actress. Worse.
Worse. All right. So now we have a series of questions that might be a little deeper. So
Okay.
I'll start. What
Okay.
part of yourself changed or evolved the most during the show?
Okay.
Last 4 years.
I've reflected on this before, and I've talked to people about this because they're like, you know, they ask like what I've gotten out of the show. And I think it's tolerance of haters. Like ending 210 episodes saying, ignore the haters, you're a queen, I think has really changed me. I think when I started this podcast, I was very susceptible and vulnerable to negative criticism about my weight, about anything that was like a big fear of mine doing this show, especially with the video, like putting myself out there. Are people going to be in the comments being like, you're a fat hoe or whatever?
Mhm.
And now I definitely, I'm not going to say like start writing fat hoe in the comments, but I definitely care less. And I think that everybody, has an opinion, as we say in in our theme song. And everybody thinks that they have something to say, and everyone is a keyboard warrior. And there's going to be people that are going to say nasty things all the time. And you can't allow that to stop you from creating art and from doing what you're meant to do and putting yourself out there. And I don't think I realized that when we were doing this like silly podcast about reviews, that was how I would feel. But I would definitely say that this show has changed me for good in that regard. How about you?
It's interesting. I feel like I could answer this in like 18 different ways.
Yeah.
I feel like trust when it comes to being like a partner. Also, I would say like my perfectionism can be very crippling. And sort of like trying to release some of that and like recognizing like the funniest things are sort of off the cuff. And but similar to you, I would say being concerned with being too effeminate or lispy sounding, like there are a lot of triggers around being gay from my Southern upbringing in the late 80s and 90s that like we've confronted similarly, and just sort of being myself and authentic and not trying to self-edit. My presentation isn't really that much of a concern for me now. And similarly for reviews, it is like, I think that when there are so many like canon statements that just everyone says that like, when I see them, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. It's like, the opinions, everyone has an opinion. And like, you can just tell someone's spirit based on the words they choose. And whether I like let it sink in or if I just sort of am like, okay, this is like about you. This isn't about whatever is happening. I feel like I have a different connection to that from being in the review section for 4 years,
Yeah, totally. Okay. What is one moment of the podcast that still makes you emotional? Is there something about this podcast that makes you emotional to this day?
It's an interesting question. I feel like I try to not like sit in it, but I think like just committing to something every week.
Yeah.
Especially coming out of COVID, it was such a like lifeboat in a lot of ways. And like the acting agent conversation too is like everything was dead, like everything stopped. And it was sort of like there was no self-expression, there's no creativity. It's like we're locked in our houses. Like, like we moved to New Jersey because it was like space instead of being locked in our apartment. It was like our dog can have a backyard. Like it was very isolating. And in the highs and lows and the effort and the hours of work for, like all of that, it was like something to be up to, which I like am really grateful to. And just on a whole, I'm like, I think it's all emotional because I don't know what my expectation was when we started. I wasn't thinking, I remember being like, oh my God, we've done 6 episodes. Like that was such a huge feat. I was like, this is incredible. And then it was a year and it was like 2 years, 3. Then we're like pivoting and then we're doing YouTube. Like it's all been like one day at a time. So to me, I feel clean with us concluding, and because I am absolutely not who I was when we started. Like, I feel like it has stretched and pushed me and like honed so many skills. And like I know that I am a different artist, a different person, a different empath. Like everything is so different from when we started. So I feel like the whole process of putting yourself out there, being committed to releasing something every week was such a gift, like to have that as a team. You know, like that's such a
I
gift.
agree.
That's how I feel like I would answer that. What about you?
I obviously agree with everything that you're saying. I think that committing to this, we've said this from the beginning, like one episode at a time, as long as we can keep going, one episode at a time. And we did that for 4 years, and that's pretty incredible. I also get emotional about every single person that called the fetch line and left a message, or every single person that sent us a message, or anyone that interacted with us with the show. Like, that always made me emotional to know that you guys got something out of what we were doing and we weren't just speaking into a void. And like, I think of like, even like Emily, when she called up and talked about the elevator moment. And like, every time I get on an elevator now, I think about that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I hope the person like actually gets off in time. And so I don't know. Did I say elevator?
Yeah.
Escalator. But you know what I mean? Like, anytime anyone interacted with the show, I would get really emotional, or when we would do a real review or anything like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could send a message to yourself on day one, what would it be?
Buckle up. I don't know. Like, I think I would say like, enjoy it, and like, enjoy the ride of this experience, and try to stay present, and don't take it too seriously, even though like you are very type A, you know, still remember to have a good time, which I think we did.
Yeah. It's funny that's how you answer, because I also think I would, because I remember we were like wanting to get everything so right.
Yeah.
Which I think is what helped us shape so much that is still present on the show now. But so much of the stuff did evolve. And I feel like the show got stronger as it evolved, because we listened to like people that were receiving the material. Also, we just trusted what would be quicker and smoother. And like, you with your comedy sensibilities would like be like, trust me, we need this trumpet sound. Like, we just sort of, we trusted that like it didn't have to be precious. Like, I think that was, because like the hemming and hawing about the segment titles, and then like how we would actually score, and then going back and forth with the logo, and then like the logo sort of evolved over time. Like we had variations, and you know, I feel like it was good that we were so trying to get it right. But I think I would tell myself half of it is just doing it, you know, and that can be scary, and that actually can stop people, because the unknown can be scary. And like, but like, you just have to put it out, and then you learn from doing that, and then it gets tighter and stronger. And you know, like, I would say just like trust.
You're going to trust that you're going to might stumble your way there.
Yeah. And I don't think we really ever truly stumbled. Like, I feel like, but I would say just like
if things come up, roll.
Yeah. Be a little more like, I would say be willing to like, quote unquote, fail, and find it. Be willing to find it more than trying to craft it, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, we were doing two reviews an episode. You know, that was a huge. We definitely pivoted as we went along. Okay, so what do you think of reviews? Do you think that reviews matter more or less after doing this show for over 200 episodes?
I think it's both, honestly. I was never a big review reader, which is ironic. I definitely read them more now. Also, I think like our culture is much more consumed because of online shopping is so much more prevalent. But like, I don't really, especially because I work at a restaurant where, you know, people get pissed for whatever reason and then they leave crazy reviews. And I made a point to never source from my employer, but like, people want to vent. So like, I don't really put much stock, especially if I'm starting to read a 1-star. I like, it's something I touched on earlier. It's like, if I can pick up on what the spirit of the person is, or if it's like they were clearly going through something, this has nothing to do with the chicken tenders, then like, you know what I mean? I feel like I usually look at reviews for like, what are people saying about sizing? Like, is it true to size? Do I need to get smaller or larger? I will always trust that. But like everything else is just an opinion. I'm like, I don't, like you might not like the sauce, but like I might want the sauce or, review. But I look. I mean, I do look, but I don't like, even for like vacations or shows, like, the amount of times that the New York Times critic pick is terrible and wrong. Like,
right.
I just don't, I think maybe as like a guidepost, but I never think of them as like scripture.
Agree.
What about you? What do you think of reviews since doing the show?
Oh my God. I think that like mostly one of the reasons why I feel like Trey and I have decided to stop the show is because like I'm so like over inundated with reviews. Like I'm not amused by reviews that would amuse me in the past. Like I'm kind of numb
that's
to
so
reviews
true.
at this point. Like I was joking with Trey when we were talking about it. Like each week I would bring in an episode and be like, is this funny? I hope Trey likes this review. Like it just became, I think and other people would send me reviews too. Like, isn't this review hilarious? And maybe I would bring it on the show and then like it wouldn't even really hit. So I feel like I have become like just immune to the funny of reviews, which is like sort of sad. I'm sure when we end this show, I'll all of a sudden come upon a ton of reviews that I'm like, oh my God, this is hilarious. I wish we have the show because that's just like the nature. But I guess that's how I feel about reviews. I will still forever be an avid reader of reviews because I like to do my research. Like I'm not going to buy a television without reading a million reviews. So they still are valuable to me. But in terms of like comedy currency, which is really where I was at, like I loved sitting around a campfire and reading a good funny review. Like I kind of do feel like I lost that. Maybe I need a break. But I don't know that reviews will ever really impress me anymore.
I 100% agree with that. Especially in the hunt. Because like and I have about 7 or 8 reviews. I have more than that I've never
so many in the wings.
used.
Yeah, same.
And what would happen is I would have found it a year ago. And then by that time, I think the taste level is different. Or it's too redundant to things that we are always talking about.
We've done that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
But yeah, I don't relate to the review section as the same way, I think.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Is there any final question? I feel like we're getting to the end here, which is like kind of sad and emotional.
Let's do these last 2. If you could write a review of your time podcasting, how many stars would you give it?
Oh my God. I don't know. I feel like just I would have to give it 5 stars because I think that we did a lot and we walked away when we felt like we needed to walk away, which is like a promise that we made to each other from the beginning, was that we were going to keep going. We were going to take it an episode at a time, and we were going to keep doing that for as long as we felt like we possibly could. And we were going to end the show when we felt like it was going to be something that was no longer fun, or that like that would turn into something that we didn't want it to be. And so I'm proud of us for doing that and sticking to that promise and being open about our feelings about the show and when it was time to say goodbye. So I'm going to give us 5 stars, 5 crowns. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to also do 5. 5 stars, 5 crowns are little cards.
Oh, yes.
Because, do you have yours? Yeah, because I feel like
I should hold it up.
Just because I've learned so much in the process, and like 5 crowns. And I like, as you as well, like we both have other ideas for podcasts. And I think we both know the support that's needed, that when we pitch other podcast ideas, it's sort of like, these are the parameters with which I need a production team. And I will be talent and production, but I'm not going to be all of it.
I love Yes, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No. But that's what I'm saying. It's like I have to do 5 stars because I still love the form. And I would probably return to it. I probably will. Armed with so much more information of
Yeah,
like
agree.
what is there for me and needed for me, you know?
Totally. Yeah, I love the show and I love doing like being a podcast host. I think is like really a natural fit, but it definitely would be a much more enjoyable experience with the support. I agree. All
And then
right.
if this was your last chance to say anything on mic,
Oh my
it's the
God.
last chance, what would you want to say?
Right. That's like an impossible question to answer.
It is.
I would say, oh God, it's like a cliche, but don't don't cry because it's ending. Smile because it happened. Because it will always exist, God willing, and it will always be out there. And I'm so grateful. I don't want to cry. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have done this show and to have worked with you, Trey. And so I'm just gonna try to remember that when I think back to everything that we've done together, and just remember to be happy about and proud about what we created.
Yeah.
Even though I'm sad.
I feel that too. It is like a mix of emotion. I feel like it's multiple layers. Just to like the audience, I would want to say of especially working on a 2-person team and then going on mic and like reading reviews. Like obviously it's like an Ellen DeGeneres thing, but I would say like just be kind to people. Like I feel like you and I have such similar hearts that like led so much of the process together. And like it's more entertaining and fun, like the negativity and stuff. But like I do feel like as a culture, and maybe it's politically and like where we are in the world, but like I feel like there's just so much hatred and negativity and terribleness. And like I've really valued like our commitment to each other to like, this is an hour where I'm going to make this human being laugh, you know? Like I feel like we've really like connected to that. And I like want to not lose that in my life. And I think like I would just say like, can we just all try to be nicer? Like, and that's so hard, but that's something I would want to say. And then also like, if it was my last time on mic, same as you, like honoring the work that we've done. And like, I try to not sit in it because I'm sort of like, whatever. But like, I'm very proud of us. And I'm proud of the interpersonal dynamics that we have had together as a team. And I'm like so grateful like for the like backbone that I feel like you put into the show. And like it like I think we gave each other like a sounding board, and like no idea was bad. Like we never made each other feel stupid or wrong. we always tried things, which like, you know, that can be such a dicey thing. Like we're both so type A, and we like, you said this earlier, but we trusted each other's expertise and knowledge and like went with it. And I like, that is so not common in working relationships. You know, it's so hard to like find an equal workforce.
Yeah.
And so I like always will be grateful to that. The trust,
Same.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, it feels so sad because that's just like how things are. But like, I'm just very grateful and happy. And like, it is all melancholy, of course. But like, who knows? Maybe we'll end up coming back and do like, if we find crazy reviews. It's like we just have to do a random
A reunion
oneer.
show.
Yeah.
Maybe. You never know. All right, Trey.
Well, before we read
close
this
it
last
out.
little, what do you, is there anything else or we feel like,
I mean, I feel like we've said it all. Thank you for being here with us for this journey.
thank you guys.
And we will reunite in some way, in some form soon. I hope.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on the final, for now, round of the RUARQ Ferris wheel of Holding Back Tears.
Thank you for joining us today. If you like what you heard, please tell a friend. There's 210 episodes that you can listen to. So there's plenty to share.
And if you did not like what you heard, tell an enemy. Send them over to us. There's 210 plus. There's more. There's so many more.
Yes.
Well, please continue. Oh, wait. We are going to do an after show. So just go, like, if you have not, here's your opportunity to subscribe. It's going to stay up and be around. So if you're joining in 2030, it's still there.
Yes.
I think we're going to look at a review that we got.
Yeah.
That
really
went sideways off the rails. And we're going to be
and
real
it was
honest
not only
about
a review that we got, but it was sent directly
to us
via email.
Yes, it was. So
Yes.
We're going to dissect that on the after show. We felt like that needed to be behind the paywall so that we can actually respond.
Yes.
And this was years ago.
Mhm.
I'm also going to disclose a complaint that has been on our list since before we aired that I've never been able to say because it's someone related to my family who said something really terrible and awful. I'm going to expose it on the after show. So.
Okay, great. All right. Well, for the final time,
please remember,
ignore the haters. You're a queen. You will always be a queen.
Gender non-specific queen.
That's right. We love you so much.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Sign up directly on Apple Podcasts to hear our weekly members-only after show. Unlock additional benefits when you become a Patreon member at review-that-review.com/Patreon. Follow us on all the socials at The Review Queens and join our mailing list at review-that-review.com. Our kvetch line is open 24/7 at 1-850-REVIEW-0. Don't be a mashugana. Call the kvetch line today.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you on the after show.
See you on the after show.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching, Queens. Click here to subscribe and click here for more videos.